Well, there were certainly lots of big changes when it comes to government policies here in Canada over the past year. As we turn the corner on 2025, we start to look towards 2026. We thought we'd do a big look back episode on all the different things that happen in Canadian politics and also take a look about some of the things that might be coming forward in 2026. So we've got two excellent guests lined up to help us unpack what happened over the past year. Kris Sims is the Alberta Director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and Daniel Dorman is the Managing Editor and Director of Operations at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Thank you both for taking a few minutes to chat with me here today. I think the biggest change that we saw that happened in Canada in 2025, at least in terms of government policy, was that we saw a change in Prime Minister. In March, Prime Minister Carney took over, and he did so on the heels of Prime Minister Trudeau, who was really quite low in the polls. Everyone was expecting the Liberal Party to just get decimated if he led them into the election. So the public was definitely looking for change. Kris, I wonder if you think, is the public getting the type of change that they want with Prime Minister Carney? What are your thoughts on how he's been doing so far?
I think it's such a huge change in personality and behavior from Trudeau that people are still in kind of this relief sort of mode. I'm going to be really blunt. Trudeau was a disaster. He was fiscally illiterate. He doubled the national debt in under a decade. He made a fool of himself on the world stage constantly, literally pointing at his socks amongst grown men. This has been noted in many news reports and books. I think that after 10 years of that, with him flippantly saying things like, oh, the budget will balance itself, not having that is a sudden change for people. And I think right now they're still emotionally reacting to the fact that Carney isn't talking about his hairstyle and socks, and they feel like they have an adult in the room. The problem is the numbers. Astonishingly, Carney is planning on putting more money down on the debt, like spending more money, borrowing more money, than Trudeau was. Like, his latest budget has a deficit that's close to $20 billion worse than the one that Freeland supposedly quit over. So I still think it's more of an emotional reaction for most normal people. They're like, Trudeau's gone. Now some adult is here. But unfortunately, the numbers are showing it to be bad.
Daniel, what about where you sit? Like I said, Canadians were looking for change. Are they getting enough of a change that they're looking for?
Yeah, thanks, Colin, and great to be on. I mean, I certainly agree with what Kris said. I mean, in one sense, I do think there's been some positive signals. Kris, you're out in Alberta. Perhaps, the Alberta MOU that just came out, some general shifts in energy policy. I think some good signals around the desire to spend on defense, to restore some of Canada's place on the world stage. Some perhaps adult conversations, as you say, but those things perhaps covering up what I think is a more fundamental similarity in that the theory of the case, the theory of government is still one in which the state plays a very large role. That it, from Ottawa builds out the economy sort of piece by piece, and not one of to borrow the metaphor from Brian Lee Crowley, the founder of MLI, not one of a gardener that cultivates the conditions for growth in the state, but of a designer that sort of, from a central location attempts to plan. We have a bit of a technocrat in Carney and maybe some more competent planning, but still central planning. And I think there's still some real flaws with that, especially when it comes to, the top line numbers of the budget, for example.
Okay, let's talk. We only have about 40 seconds, Kris, but what's he doing right?
He's saying that he wants to have pipelines, and he's saying that he wants to lift the production cap on Alberta's oil and gas. I'm using a key word there because I don't see a pipeline. It's really easy to make promises. The concern here is that immediately after signing that MOU, he bragged about the carbon tax being 6 times higher. So we're going to have a sudden carbon tax increase here in Alberta, January 1, in like a couple of weeks. But we don't have a pipeline. So that's key.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the changes at the federal scene, plus inflation and a lot more. We'll be back in just a moment.